What is your we should never meet our heroes story? I actually just met Harrison Ford today. He was wearing an Indiana Jones hat while shopping in public. Do meet your heroes. To give us a little salve for all the Bill Nye hate, I once delivered a pizza to Patton Oswalt and he gave me a 50% tip, and when I told him he was a personal hero he gave me a little bow. Also he would come in to order sometimes with his daughter and he'd let her do the ordering. He is for real the nicest. Really mad about Bill Nye though. Quite a few years back my dad took my brother and I up to San Francisco for a day trip to Pier 39. Turns out Jeremy Bulloch, the original Boba Fett, was doing some kind of meetup thing that no one turned up for, except for us. My dad is a huge Star Wars nerd after having grown up in its heyday, so naturally he was a bit nervous meeting his hero. From memory, the encounter went pretty well, but I'll always remember the moment it got awkward. You were always my favorite character, man. Even if you only got like 10 minutes of screen time. I'm sure I had a bit more than that. Bill Ducking Nye. Grew up down the street from him. Ronald Reagan Jr. lives across the street from him. Almost everyone in my age group in Seattle has some negative story about the guy. For me it was when I saw him at the local grocery store and told my mom, well look, it's Bill Nye. I was only 6 or 7 at the time, but I still remember the loud goddamn IT, followed by the incessant muttering as he stormed out of the building huffing and stomping his feet as he went. I also had a guy whose dad was a producer with the Bill Nye show, and when he took my friend to work asked Bill to sign a book and talk to his son for a second. Bill tells my friend's dad to go duck himself and that he'd never talk to some little punkitch brat. Producer dad pulls rank and Bill awkwardly sighs in resignation. Walks over to my buddy and tells him, more or less, science is cool, do good in school, yeah, and walks off while muttering under his breath. Many other people in their mid-20s in the Magnolia, Queen Anne, Ballard, Fremont areas of Seattle have similar stories of the guy. I get it. It must suck at times getting recognized by so many people. However, what I found off was how he was so prone to cursing kids. Still enjoy a lot of his work and would love to meet up with him and see what he's like to talk to adult. But the memory of a pissed off man muttering duck, god damn it, shine-eyed because a kid recognized him will forever stay with me. Edit. Huh. Didn't expect this comment to get even close to this much attention. When I was in 2nd grade, I thought Bob Feller, pitcher from the Indians back in the day, was the greatest thing ever. I read about him constantly. When Cleveland opened its new Jacobs Field Stadium, he was there signing autographs all day. I went to the exhibition game with my dad. Around 10 PM we were walking to our car in the lot, and my dad notices Bob Feller is like 10 feet away walking with some guy. He's like, do you want to ask him for an autograph? So I go over there, this tiny little white-haired blonde girl, and I was like, excuse me Mr. Feller, can I have your autograph? He turns to me and is like, god damn it, no, I've been signing autographs all day. I'm not signing another one. Jesus Christ. I didn't know what to do, so I just kinda froze and walked back to my dad and tied up. My dad was so sad because he knew he was my hero. So he took the paper from me and was like, Mr. Feller, would you reconsider? She's 8. She reads about you every night. You're her hero. He was like, give me the goddamn paper. Signed his name real quick. And my dad thanked him so much and walked back to me to give it to me. He was like, here honey. Loud enough for Feller to hear. Which was an accident, lol. I was like, I don't want it anymore. After telling that story here and there, I found out apparently he is a huge D and has a reputation for being constantly nasty. Well. Turns out actors charge money for autographs at conventions. I was crushed and broke. I went to an event with Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch as the special guest when I was like 7. It turns out there were multiple Salem cat actors. For some reason, this really devastated me. After that, I'd always try to point out the inaccuracies of the cats within a scene to make me feel better. My aunt got the producers of Wishbone to write and confirm that Wishbone was a single dog, actually named Soccer. This did make me feel better. And Wishbone is a universally better show. Obviously. I realized there was also a robot cat. I was 7. Not a total idiot. ETAA. If you're a fan of Wishbone, read this. I have a lot of friends that swim and they've always said Ryan Lochte is a complete douche. A few of them met Michael Phelps and apparently he was a condescending asshole. This comment is 4/5 of my karma and yet it's still buried. Wasn't really my hero, but I met Billy Mays a while back when he was visiting a local Giant Eagle grocery store for some reason or another. I think they had the money for him to come in and plug some product in store. Anyway, my mom worked at this particular Giant Eagle and she met him before I came into work. She had him sign an autograph for me before begging him to do her a favor. That favor was charging in my direction down an aisle shouting clean your room. Mangiaco. Funny and a great memory thinking back on it, but I nearly shat my pants at the time. Control plus F Steve Irwin. 0 results. Crikey, that's a relief. I told Pierce 1,000 times. I never wanted to meet LeVar in person. I just wanted a picture. You can't disappoint a picture. One of my earliest memories was meeting Batman. I was probably 3 or 4 and I remember my mom taking me to this big event and it was crazy and awesome. The Batmobile was there and we got to sit in it. I remember I had a picture of Batman and Robin signed. Best day ever. I'm 30 now and recently brought it up to my mom. I asked where it was we went that time. She explained to me that it was just a local grocery store promotion. Batman and Robin were just some old fat middle-aged guys with a beat-up old Corvette that had cardboard mods attached to it. Apparently it was a pretty embarrassing display. I always remembered how amazing that day was, but now that I know the truth it kinda ruined it. While I was working at an airport, I met Sting. I thought he was gonna be cool but he was kind of a D. The opposite can be true also. I met Robbie Williams, of Take That, who I'd always thought seemed kind of a D but he was one of the nicest people I've ever met. Bill Nye is now on the Reddit list. Met Bill Nye 5 minutes ago. He murdered my wife and shat on my kids. Then he stole my Buffalo Wild Wings gift card and spat on my face. I'll never think of him the same again, comma. John Stockton told me I shouldn't eat so much bread when I met him when I was a little kid. I was at a music festival and I had a copy of a magazine that contained an article I had written about a favorite band. I spotted the lead singer at the beer tent, bought him a beer and asked if he could sign the article I wrote on his band. He chose to act like I'd had a case of mistaken identity, and once I believed him and apologized for the mistake, he chided me for not being a very good fan if I couldn't recognize him. I was wicked high on mushrooms, so after I walked away it triggered a mega bad trip where I was second guessing everyone's identity. Not my heroes by any means, but by far the biggest assholes I've met in the music industry were puddle of mud. They couldn't even play their own songs during sound check without ducking up. And they would fire any crew that looked them in the eyes. Also Chris Daughtery. I was his runner and asked for an autograph for my aunt who is a huge fan and he just laughed at me. I met my hero MR. Incredible. He wouldn't let me be his sidekick. Years ago, my chemistry teacher attended a Science Olympiad convention, a national after-school science club, in Chicago I believe. He stayed at a hotel on the top floor. As he was traveling down the hotel in an elevator, in walks Bill Nye, my teacher, wearing his Cioli shirt, essentially screaming I am science, filled with joy, and was about to say oh, you Bill Nye, when, before he could even begin, Nye double shushed him, and my teacher spent the entire hotel height-wise elevator trip in an awkward silence. To this day, whenever a kid asks if Bill Nye is still alive, my teacher always assures that he isn't to him. Bill Nye is a celebrity and probably was having a bad day. We've all had them. I also understand many think he's wasting his time debating the existence of climate change with people who are as stubborn as humans. I think he isn't because of 2 reasons. 1. He spreads awareness of those who do not believe in climate change, and 2. He may potentially convince third-party watchers of the existence of climate change. Went to a Comic Con and the dude who played Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer got absolutely slated by everyone there, including guest celebs, as he was charging his fans "You're cute" 24 what was meant to be a free talk. He was the only guest there who did this, and then charged "You're cute" 54 autographs. By comparison, Paul Freeman, who played Raiders of the Lost Ark villain, Belloc was there and he only charged you a cute $5 for an autograph and all his earnings went to his and his wife's charity for building schools in Africa, which I gladly paid for. This was back in the 90s. My mom was a waitress at a restaurant and the town we lived in was a frequent site for filming movies and TV shows. And one day, my mom waited on a table and realized it was Anthony Hopkins with his agent sitting at table ordering breakfast. After she took their drink order, Silence of the Lambs was still new. So in the kitchen all of her co-workers were squealing like little girls and dared my mother when taking their breakfast order if he wanted a side of fava beans and a nice Quanti. I can't spell, but she chickened out worrying she'd bother him. She must have done the right thing because he left a 40% tip and wrote on the check excellent food and service. While he was in town, he ate breakfast there almost every day, and everyone was just too chicken to be a fangirl about him lol. I met Buzz Aldrin working on a promo for Axe body spray when they did that Apollo go into space contest thing. He was insanely nice, but listening to him talking to his assistants and the Axe people as well as the director of the promo between takes, he seemed a bit disconnected from his words. I have no idea what his schedule was like or what else he was going on, but being the main audio guy I had a clear feed of everything he was saying, and it all just sounded mildly confused. Still, got to shake hands with a guy who's been on the freaking moon, so, you know, that was really freaking awesome. I like how people are commenting without name dropping, as if we care about anything but the juicy deeds. Every celebrity with a social media account except for Chris Pratt and Tom Hanks. Scottie Pippen is hands down the biggest turd ever. I grew up in the suburbs he lived in and every time I saw him he was just such an asshole. He was a hero growing up and he ended up being complete garbage. Edit. Thank you dear stranger for the gold. Waited 4 hours in the blistering cold and he just said no. I was dying to meet Jason Momoa and I finally got the chance to at an after party for an indie movie he was in. It was at a small venue in LA with some bands playing. Jason walked in and few people started talking to him. Once they passed I bought a beer and approached him. I gave him the beer and asked how his night was. He was kinda drunk already from the look of it, but he pounded the beer without saying anything. I wasn't too sure what to think so I got more to the point and asked if it would be cool to get a pic. He leaned into my face and said, "Tonight isn't about that. Tonight is about me," and walked away. Not even 5 minutes later he was taking pics with some other people across the venue and signing some autographs. Aquaman owes me a beer, damn it. I was tempted to book a lecture talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson complete with a candor afterward, but then read about how he is supposedly a colossal asshole and belittles anyone who isn't on his level. Also, we had Bill Nye come to speak at our university and I had several students who attended a dinner with him attest that yes, he is indeed a curmudgeon and a douchebag. When I was still in high school my best friend, his older sister and I met Adrian Peterson, future Hall of Fame running back for the Minnesota Vikings, and it sucked. We all happened to be walking into a mall in the suburbs of Minneapolis at the same time, and he was walking right in front of us. My buddy and I got all excited, and I made eye contact with him so I knew that he knew we recognized him, but before we could say hey Mr. Peterson, big fans, he held the door open for my friend's sister, checked out her ass and whistled at her, then closed the door right in my friend and I's faces. Didn't even want to say anything to him after that. This was 6-7 years ago now and I'm still salty about it. On the other hand I met Bo Burnham after a show in Iowa City, Iowa one time and he was great. Was willing to chat with any all fans that came to the show. Genuinely thanked everyone for being there, and signed my ticket and took a photo with me for free. This was on his Bo Burnham Live tour, and I've made a point to see him on both of his tours since then and will gladly pay to see him on any potential future tours as well. I've been within 20 feet of 2 celebrities, as opposed to others I've only seen at a distance. That is, on stage. 1. Bill Nye. He came to my university to check out the satellite program, and naturally everyone crowded around the demonstration area taking pictures. The whole time he kept telling us to put our phones away and live in the present of his glory. Sorry bud, your glorious presence is temporary, but a picture is forever. 2. Weird Al. Total opposite. After a long and exhausting concert and organized autograph session after, he was still down to meet fans and sign stuff. My friend and I, and others, camped out by his tour bus behind the venue, and when he finally came out, instead of shooing us away and taking off for much deserved rest, his bouncer had us line up and said we could get one photograph and signature each, and not too much chit chat. He just seemed genuinely humble and kind. I asked him how many accordions he has. He thought about it for a long time but couldn't decide on 6 or 7. Buzz Aldrin. He was attending a senior design presentation at my school and was basically the guest of honor and got his own little speech. I was really hyped because I love space and everything surrounding it. He's a nice guy, but the sad truth is that he's closer now to just being a senile old man. A couple times he just kinda stopped talking and forgot where he was. One of the people he brought basically had the job of keeping him on track and had to cut him off a few times because he kept rambling off topic. Really sad to see such an impressive man reduced to that. On the flip side, Henry Rollins always meets fans at the stage door and signs whatever they want, even though half of it's on eBay the next day. I met him in Australia recently, and even though he'd just done a 2.5 hours show and was jet lagging, he signed everything and was a perfect gentleman to everyone. Celebrity means nothing if you wear it wrong. I saw Bill Nye on a toddler. I don't have one. Only a do meet your heroes story. Jeremy Bodakaka Boba Fett of course was signing pictures at a local comic shop and was about the nicest bloke you could meet. He's the sort of fella you'd like to have as a granddad. Unlike my granddad, who is the kind of person you'd like as your bounty hunter. I met Michael from The Bachelor, Australia, at a local club called Blackbird. He wasn't a smooth talking but sweet player like they portrayed him on TV. He was just a drunk dude sleazing on every girl in the venue, with very little success too. I also met Deadmore5 while bartending, and he was a complete wanker. He was so rude to all the staff and other patrons, my manager asked his entire entourage to leave. It was really sad for me because I absolutely love his music. Lee Methodic Greenwood. God bless the USA. Lee Greenwood. I sang backup for him as part of a choir once in 1989. My dad was a huge fan, so after a rehearsal I approach him, tell him my dad is a huge fan, and ask for an autograph. He literally rolled his eyes, huffed, and walked off, and dead to me since. PS. He's only 5 feet 3 inches. I'm not sure how many of you guys are Australians, but I met Ben Cousins a couple of years ago while out in Northbridge, and the dude was meth-y out of his mind. Felt so bad to see the bloke in that state, especially with all the hope we all had as his career was finishing up. I was a huge fan of Ryan Cabrera through college. His voice is mediocre at best, and his melodies are simple but catchy. Despite this, I really identified with his lyrics when going through a really bad breakup that spun me off into destructive behavior during the second half of college. Always came back to his music and it eventually got me out. Fast forward to 2016, and Ryan's out on tour. I was able to see him perform live for the first time in my life and got the opportunity to meet him after the show. I had rehearsed what I was going to say about how his music kept me going through my darkest times, and he completely brushed me off to hit on my friends. Haven't listened to his music since. I met Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at an airport. I asked to take a picture and at first he seemed really unhappy about it. I asked what he was reading and it was a Sherlock Holmes novel. I loved those, so we chatted about it some, and then he mentioned he had written one about Holmes' brother. I felt like I was really bothering him, so I'd keep trying to leave him alone, but every time I started to leave he'd ask a question, so we kept chatting. Just a really quiet dude, I guess. Was nice after the picture though. I met Billy Corgan once when he had his side bands on. He was a complete jerk to everyone and acted like he didn't want to be there. His show, it forever changed my perception of him. Not my hero but my mom's hero. Mom is in love with John Bon Jovi. She bumped into him, literally, in public a few years back and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," before realizing who he even was, and his response was, "You should be like, what man? An old lady bumps into you accidentally and that is your response?" Did not change her love for him, but it sure made me sour. I've heard other stories of him being generally a D-head since, but that is my favorite. Another for him. A friend was working in a position where he saw the guy often, a few times a week or so. At the end of every interaction my friend would say have a nice day, as he said to literally everyone on partying with them like, you know, most people in positions like that. Jovi got more and more sour every time he sees my friend. It took him months to realize the guy actually thought he was mocking him because of that stupid song album he put out of the same name. On the other hand, literally everyone I know has bumped into continues to bump into Bruce Springsteen whenever he's not on tour, and the guy is just the nicest dude ever. The contrast is wild. It's worth noting that a huge percentage of people here are crazy for Springsteen and most would never dream of bothering him in public. Likely because he's such a nice guy. No one wants to put him out. Went to the Kids' Choice Award back in 2006 and I got to meet a few celebrities. Biggest disappointment, Drake and Josh. Those guys were ducking assholes. Couldn't be bothered to greet fans or sign autographs. Best impression, Rihanna. Possibly beyond registered sign. My mom remembers this story the best. My brother was only 5 or 6 at the time and by the end of the night he was crying from overstimulation. Rihanna saw him crying, went over, talked to him and gave him a kiss on the cheek. It was really nice of her, and it helped to calm him down. Runner-up, Will Smith. All around classy guy. We ran into him at a restaurant in Hollywood. I have always been a huge fan of his and was naturally pretty nervous going up and saying hi to my hero. He saw me looking at him, wanting to say hi and waved me over. He signed an autograph, talked to me for a few minutes and I went on my way. Really awesome guy. Super late, but if I didn't say anything I'd be doing the man a disservice. My grandmother catered for the set on the movie Pride and Prejudice. Ed Norton came for dinner after shooting and he was super nice. I stayed in my room because I was super shy and I just had pretty low self-esteem the time. My grandma, being the clever cunt she is, went to the front door, opened it and went out and started the car and had everyone be quiet. I thought everyone had left and she was driving them to the hotel. When I came running out to watch them leave, there he was sitting at the dinner table, alone. I was ducking, mortified. Keep in mind I'm a straight male 18 at the time. I just played it cool and sat at the dinner table and made a plate. He was super cool. I watch all his movies still and we talked about American History X for a long time. He's very intelligent and my grandma still sends him butter tarts sometimes. My dad met a relation of Stephen Fry's, Key, who at the time was my absolute hero for his narrations of the Harry Potter audiobooks. I am dyslexic and couldn't read them myself, so I used to just listen to him read them over and over again. Anyway, my dad got chatting with this relation and the topic turned to family and to Stephen and then how much he meant to me. About a month later I received the Order of the Phoenix CD box set signed to me by Stephen. I still cherish it. Sure, it's not me meeting my hero, but him taking the time to do that shows all about how great a man he is. Photos of the CDS. We met Cary Elwes at a Comic Con. He'd seen me and my family in our cosplay, The Incredibles, pointed to us, gave us a thumbs up and said, "You look great." Then we went and met him in his line. He said he was glad we came to see him cause he liked our cosplay and spent an inordinate amount of time doting on my daughters. Really cool guy. Trick Daddy. I had to check him out on Labor Day at a grocery store some years back, and he makes a rude comment about this cracker better move faster and stop talking to this bag boy. What did I tell the courtesy clerk that made him upset? Make sure you help him out to the car. Duck Trick Daddy. Washed up. 2-bitch. I'm good friends with Jon Stewart's nephew. When I was in middle school, my friend was cool enough to bring me, my mom, and my brother along to New York to meet him and chill for the day. As we had never been to Nick, John sent a limo to pick us all up at my friend's house and his wife Tracy took us around Nick for the day before we went to the studio to meet John. It was so rad and he was the chillest dude ever. When we came in he said, "So you are the corner I've been hearing so much about." My buddy had told him about us frequently since we were good friends for years. He then took us around the studio, took pictures with us, and gave us Daily Show hats. Afterwards his wife took us to his apartment where they ordered us pizza and let us hang out and play Xbox with his kids. John offered to let us sleep over and stay in his room. but my mother declined as they had already been extremely kind to us. Overall, I tell this story to let people know that Jon Stewart is the coolest, most down-to-earth methodica on this planet. He let 3 strangers into his house and bought them pizza. Him and his family are great.